I'm not a huge cocktail person except for wanting to be obliterated with the martini.
So basically, you're just James Bond.
I wish. What a life.
Hysteria, the podcast for people who would gladly eat pie for every meal. Our guest today is a Hysteria favorite. She's a chef, a restaurateur, and the host of KCRW's Good Food. Please welcome back Los Angeles food scene legend, Erin Kleiman. Hi, Erin.
Hello. So nice to be here.
Oh, Evan, so happy to see you. The vibes out there are equal parts stressful, hopeful, chaotic. And so I wanted to have one of my favorite people on to talk about ways to enjoy ourselves right now. One of my favorite segments on Good Food is the Market Report, where y'all talk about what's hot at the local farmers markets. If you're lucky, you're living in an abundance of tomatoes. Evan, how are you enjoying summer's best tomatoes?
Well, I have to say that, every year I can sauce each year with a couple of friends towards the end of summer. So I am one of those people who actually manages to avoid tomatoes when they're not in season. I mean, almost completely, I have to say, except maybe, the perfunctory tomato slice on a burger. So during the summer, I really do like to eat them in a super intentional way, not just adding a couple of cherry tomatoes to a salad. And for that reason, I have to say I love a really good Greek salad, because everything in it is in season. People don't think about cucumbers as having a season, but they are definitely a summer thing, as are peppers. So I love to find a really great beefsteaky kind of tomato, something that has really solid flesh, and then cut it into nice thick chunks. And then I'll have it with those crisp peppers and the crunchy cucumbers. And then, of course, the feta is the salt. And then you have to drench it with a ton of olive oil. And I love the wild oregano, the kind that comes in a bunch. That's dried, and you just sort of crunch it. Yeah, I love that.
What do you do, a little olive oil? Do you do any vinegar or anything like that?
No vinegar, because I really feel like the tomato, if it's a good tomato, will have plenty of acid. And once you add the olive oil and sort of start to mix it up, it makes its own juice. You don't need the vinegar.
I agree. I always think the vinegar kind of messes up the whole flavor. But it's so funny because we too, up here in upstate New York, Evan, we have a canning party at the end of the summer.
You do?
Yes, we do. All of the neighbors get together at my friend Mona's house and we have a canning party. And it is run with military precision because you cannot fuck with canning. You cannot.
No. Ours, we have 3 people. There's 3 in our group. Others always say, let me help. And then they last for like an hour.
Yeah, we have like Bunsen, we have burners going. I mean, like with big cauldrons of boiling water to like sterilize the jars and everything.
Yeah, how many burners do we have? We have 2 camp stoves outside that are 2 burners each.
Yep.
And then we have the stove inside, which is where we have Amish canners.
Oh, wow.
Which are these big rectangular steel canners, so they go over 2 burners, and you can fit so many more jars in those.
How many jars do you end up with at the end?
I think we ended up this year with over 60 quarts.
Yeah, that's about what we end up with.
We did almost 300 pounds of tomatoes last year, I think. And
people don't understand the rigor that goes into canning.
Oh my goodness. And
you're blanching, you're washing them, you're blanching them, you're peeling them. It is an all day.
We don't do that. I have this amazing tomato mill. And so we put the tomatoes in raw, and it separates the skins and the seeds and turns it into like a puree. And then we can a little bit of that, like a passata. But then we make 2 sauces. We make puttanesca sauce, and we make pomodoro, garlic and basil. Not even basil, it's just garlic. And then so we can 2 sauces and a little passata.
I always laugh. Evan, do you remember the movie Steel Magnolias?
Yes, of course.
So when Shirley MacLaine walks in and with all of her tomatoes, and she's always giving tomatoes away because she's like, I'm a crazy Southern lady. I wear big hats and I grow tomatoes. And so it's like at the end of the summer, we started canning because everyone would have so many tomatoes. And then in the winter, you've got the base for sauces, for soups, for so many things, everything you could need.
And I use it as a hostess gift. So instead of bringing a bottle of wine, I bring sauce and a pound of pasta.
Ooh.
And people are like, do you have any more of that sauce left?
They're like, I shouldn't have eaten it the day after you gave it to me. Now I want more.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, so tomatoes, number one, always so much. Peaches. Now, Evan, I got into preserving peaches because, true story, I got so depressed at the end of one summer when I went to my farm stand and I said to Nancy, who is now my friend, I said, are there any peaches left? I said, it's the end of summer. And I just got really weirdly emotional. And she's like, why don't you can them? And I was like, oh. And so that's actually what got me into making jam. And I've actually learned how to like preserve peaches, like peach slices that I will eat in the winter. There are so many varieties of peaches. What's your favorite? What do you do with them to make them last?
Okay, so we're in Southern California.
Yeah.
So we have this amazing menu of peaches throughout the summer, and it changes constantly depending on the grower and how far into the season they are. There's a grower I went to high school with, John Tenorelli, and this is going to sound so unbelievably lazy, but his children have started a mail order business called peaches.la. And every Monday, if you sign up for their newsletter, into your inbox comes, or every Sunday rather, we're picking this on tomorrow. What do you want? So the Arctic Flame nectarines were one of the most unbelievable stone fruits I've ever had. Such high acid to match the sweetness. Yep. The week that I got that, I had been invited to go to the Hollywood Bowl, which of course means that you make a meal, and so it's like a potluck meal in your box. And they asked me if I would make a pie. So I made a pie with these nectarines, and I have to say, I think that may have been the best pie I've ever made, purely because of the quality of those nectarines.
Well, that's, here last summer, so we have a bounty of stone fruit this year out east. But last year we had none because there was an early thaw and then a late frost. And so we lost everything. And any of the peaches, and there were floods down in Georgia. And so any of the peaches we got last year were mushy and gross. And this year, I have so many peaches, I don't know what to do with them. So is your favorite thing to do with peaches put them in a pie?
My favorite thing is just to eat them. And I tend to eat them over the sink.
Yep, because if they're not good if they're not messy.
They're so messy. I'm a big cottage cheese fan. So actually last night for dinner, I had peaches and cottage cheese. I'm not huge on mixing the sweet and the savory together, but peaches with burrata, so good. And also the Persian stews. There are a couple Persian stews that are really delicious with stone fruit. But I do have to say that I think a galette or a pie is just the highest form that a peach could, aspire to.
It is. I have all different kinds of peaches on the stove right now for different kinds of jam. And peach is the one thing that I won't mix with anything else.
Oh, that's interesting.
I just like it straight. It's just got to be peach. I've messed around a little bit with peach and nectarine, peach and apricot, peach and blueberry, but honestly, peach and basil, peach straight is just how it's meant to be. Because ultimately, it ends up being like I put it on cottage cheese or Greek yogurt.
Do you ever add jalapeno?
I have, and I've done jalapeno and I've done Calabrian chili.
Yeah. Which one did you like better?
I liked the Calabrian chili better. In general, in jams, I have liked Calabrian chili better than jalapeno. It may be that I just know how to use it better, but in general, that's been easier for me.
So interesting. Oh, God. Peach jam. Yum.
Peach. Evan, I'm going to have to send you some. I've got like a fallout shelter full down in the basement. If we ever have to go underground, I'll just be eating peaches. I'll just be I'll be peach lady. So here's one that I'm always a little like, don't know what to do with. Of course, I preserve them, but apricots. Do you like apricot in a salad? Do you like them cooked in a stew or anything like that?
I mean, apricots in a tart combined with nuts. So a frangipane base, which is basically like a cakey mixture of almonds, eggs, and sugar, slathered into a, pot brisée or whatever kind of dough you want. And then the almonds, the apricot just stuffed in there at halves. To me, that's the greatest. And any kind of Eastern European tort or cake or strudel, I think apricots showed themselves really well in the Eastern European canon of baked goods. But, they're used a lot in Georgian cuisine when they're tart.
Okay.
And so they're cooked into stews, in Iran too, when they're tart. And so they have more for their tartness than for their lusciousness. I, of course, love them when they're just ripe. And
right.
The problem with apricots is that you can just eat 10 of them.
Yeah. And then you will end up with a little stomach ache. Things will get a little turbulent if you eat too many apricots.
But that flesh is so unique. It's different than any other stone fruit.
It is. And I think a lot of people when they preserve take the skin off things.
No.
And I love the skin is the flavor.
It's a flavor, and once it's like, once you've canned it, it's kind of boiled into submission. It's not even that it's that much of a textural element.
No, not at all. So I know, because I'm a super fan, that you love a martini.
Yes, I do.
You love a martini, but in the summer, do you mix it up at all? Do you have a favorite summer cocktail, anything that you branch out to?
I'm not a big drinker. Mm-hmm. So not really. I have to say that I've gone back to my roots, and I've been drinking a ton of iced tea and Arnold Palmer. The other night I tried a Lillet that I'd never tried before, Quina Lillet, which supposedly brings the quinine, the bitterness, back to Lillet. I'm not a huge cocktail person except for wanting to be obliterated with the martini.
It's funny because you had said about cucumbers are amazing in the summer, and they really are sort of
100. Oh yes, a cucumber martini, yum.
Cucumber martini, and I've been doing a cucumber gin and tonic.
Oh, see, I have to say also I am a gin and tonic girly.
Yeah.
So I actually had one last week. But so when you do it with cucumbers, do you just cut a slice and stick it in, or are you muddling?
I do a little bit of both. I muddle a little bit and then at the bottom, and I've been using the regular cucumbers. And then we have something here, you may have it there too, salt and pepper cucumbers.
What are they?
They're very crisp, and I will do on the mandolin sort of some long slices of the cucumber and put it around the glass with gin and tonic, and then just a little bit of rosemary.
Ooh. Interesting.
I don't like sweet cocktails at all. To me, that just they can give me a headache right away.
I don't like that either.
That has been a fun. That's been a fun thing for me for the past couple of weeks. I went to the grocery store. I was in such a mood for them. I went to the grocery store and they were out of gin and tonic. I had a straight meltdown. And then this lady had 4 cases because everyone's drinking gin and tonics, Evan.
So funny. What's your favorite gin?
You know what? I have been doing Botanist.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm a full-on London Dry kind of girl.
Ooh.
So I like, I think it's called Key Number 3. I like anything that's super juniper forward, which pretty much rules out the modern gins, which tend to be way more floral.
So basically, you're just James Bond.
I wish. What a life.
Let's talk about something that everybody loves to do in the summer, grilling. Evan, I'm a terrible person on the grill. When I was, it was 25 years ago, and I had this boyfriend I was trying to impress. And so I would grill for him. I'd get these New York strip steaks at the grocery store, and I would grill them. And years later, he was like, that they tasted like they were marinated in lighter fluid. And that was very sad because back then that was very expensive for me, and I thought I was doing a nice thing. Do you like to grill? And if you do, what and how do you grill?
I'm not a big griller, I have to say.
You're not?
I love a griddle.
Okay.
I like to sear things. And actually, friends gifted me recently an uni pizza oven.
Ooh.
And I have been really enjoying cooking in it, like putting stuff in cast iron and shoving it in there. And that's great because it all happens outside, so you're not heating up the kitchen. And I find it particularly good for fish. But for grilling, I will say that I do love a nice marinated flank steak.
Mm-hmm. That's delicious. How do you marinate it? What do you like to marinate it in?
I mean, it depends. Sometimes, when I was a kid, my mother was all into the soy vey.
Yeah.
The Jewish teriyaki sauce. That was mostly sugar. But I prefer more of a red wine, rosemary, garlic, olive oil kind of situation, a ton of black pepper. And then once it's sliced really thin, I just want to eat it like a taco with tortillas.
So growing up, my mom had a recipe, which honestly I feel like cannot be rivaled. It was grapefruit juice, olive oil, and Good Seasons salad dressing. You know, the dehydrated packet?
What did the grapefruit juice bring to the party?
I think it tenderized it, and it made it like, I don't know, zesty.
Oh, but that's so interesting. I've never heard of that.
I will ask my mom. It's like one of those great like 1960s recipes that you're like, how could it be? And then you taste it and you're like, well, there's something to this.
Yeah.
So Evan, I have with everything that's been happening in the world, I've been having a horrible time sleeping. And when I can't sleep, I take out my cookbooks. And I read. I love the sort of trend. I don't know if it's just because I buy everything that you recommend on your podcast or what, but I love the narrative movement where you're getting the story behind the person, behind the cuisine, and just like juicy little tidbits. I find it very soothing to go to sleep to. I have been reading from Julia Child's Kitchen from 1975.
I love that.
Isn't it? I just love it. I love her. Do you have any recommendations or any cookbooks that you're super into now for listeners who need a little reprieve?
Well, going in the Wayback Machine, I was thinking about how much I really loved the Time Life series, the Cuisines of the World.
Yep.
And in particular, there was one volume called A Quintet of Cuisines.
Oh.
And I will probably forget the quintet in its completeness, but it was like Poland, Bulgaria, and Romania, that area.
Right.
Belgium, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, that area, and North Africa.
Uh-huh.
I still make recipes from that little book. And what I loved about it then was, well, first of all, they were published in 1968. They started being published. They were serialized. My mom bought me a subscription. We didn't have a lot of money, so that was so luxurious. And so I was 15. And they basically I think they're the thing that gave me the wanderlust that I ended up having. And the reason I ended up traveling that first year when I was 17 in Europe, it's more than recipes. It just told you so much about a world you knew nothing about in the pre-internet times. But if I want to talk about another book that nobody has read, is I have it written down here, The Auberge of the Flowering Hearth by Roy Andres de Groot. Have you ever read it?
No, but I'm going to now.
Oh my God. It's from 1973. I read it like a novel, but it's a nonfiction account by this author of the experience he had in an inn in Savoy in France. And it is the most extraordinary, it's a book about the meals he had at this inn. And it talks about everything, the people, the waiters, the other guests. It's just an amazing book.
Okay. I'm getting that.
And then for new books that are now.
Zatari?
Yeah. So Zatari is this extraordinary book written by Karen E. Fisher about the culinary traditions, but more than that, the life traditions of the over 80,000 people living in the Zatari refugee camp in Jordan. It's the largest Syrian refugee camp in the world. So it's a Syrian cookbook, but it talks about the extraordinary ingenuity in which people who are living in the camp need to find food, make food, their lives. It's the most incredible cookbook that I've read in a long, long time.
Wow. I can't wait. See, now I have so many things to get. Now, listeners, if you love KCRW and good food as much as I do, consider making a donation to keep them doing what they're doing at kcrw.com. Evan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Alyssa.
Welcome back to Hysteria, the podcast for gymnastics fans. Katie, let's get into our Sani Petty. I have something that is keeping me sane this week. Are you ready?
Yes.
I saw and have on good authority, and by good authority, I mean People Magazine, that Celine Dion may be making a comeback this Friday at the opening ceremonies for the Paris Olympics. I could not be more excited.
Have you seen the documentary about her life?
So I haven't been emotionally stable enough to watch it. The news has been too chaotic. Every time I went to put it on, I needed something a little more low stakes. I actually watched the Indigo Girls documentary, It's Only Life After All, this weekend, which was wonderful.
Oh, okay. I'll add that to my list.
I know that there are going to be a lot of peaks and valleys in the Celine Dion documentary, so I've waited. But Katie, my best friend and I went and saw Celine 2 weeks before COVID. And it was...
Did she do a lot of this?
She did everything.
Were you in Las Vegas?
No, we were at Barclays in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow.
It was extraordinary.
Can I one-up you on that?
Of course.
I did the first American interview of Celine Dion when she came to the Today Show studio.
Stop.
And I think it was Christmas time, if I recall. I remember exactly what she was wearing. She was wearing like a almost maroon kind of boat neck dress. And she and Peebo Bryson sang the theme song
to Beauty and the
Beast. And it was so beautiful. You should Google it. I think it's on YouTube. And I marveled at when I rewatched it. Our directors was so good at the time. I don't know if it was Bucky or Joe. We had two different directors when I was there. But they were putting scenes from the movie while they were singing. And I was like, wow. And she was, very nervous. I don't think she spoke a ton of English back then. She was very young. And it was such a treat. And to see what she's become is really incredible. So was the concert everything you dreamed it would be and more?
It was... Okay, first, a million costume changes. But the best was, I love a concert when the fans come to play. Like, I know there's Taylor Swift and Beyonce and everything. People came to Celine Dion the women who were one section over from us had matching sequin bomber jackets, and they had choreography to about 50% of the songs. And Kara and I are watching it, and we were just like half watching Celine and half watching the women at the other end, because it was like
a religious experience.
It had a revival sense to it. And also, I just love watching people, which is kind of also why I'm excited for the Olympics. I love watching people experience joy and excellence. Like, it is contagious. And so to me, that is, I hope that the rumors are true and that she will be there on Friday, because I will be watching. I will be watching.
I'm going to be watching too. It's interesting because I hosted the opening ceremonies a few times when I was at NBC.
What haven't you done?
Well, I haven't skydived.
Will you ever?
I haven't slept with George Clooney. There are a lot of things I haven't done, Alyssa.
All right.
But anyway, it's a really fun thing. And, you see all the Parade of Nations. And Bob Costas and I would have this running joke. I'd say, Bob, do you know what country is coming up next? And he'd say, no, Katie, what country? And I'd say, you bet, Djibouti. I know. It's kind of a dad joke, isn't it? But
anyway, it's a dad joke, but
I think Kelly Clarkson and Jimmy Fallon are hosting it, but I could be wrong. Can we Google that?
We'll find out. Don't worry, we'll find out. But did you see they have had Snoop Dogg commentating on track and field. It's really funny.
Is it funny?
It is funny. I hope that, I feel like the world could use the Olympics right now.
I totally agree. But I hope it doesn't become too silly. I don't know. Is Snoop really knowledgeable about track and field events?
He, enough. And I don't know if he's doing the actual Olympics or only did the trials, but it was enjoyable.
Okay, good.
And the French, and the other thing is, I don't know if you have seen, the French have brought in Louis Vuitton, like the outfits, the uniforms, the trays that the medals are presented on. Extraordinary.
That's so great.
It's going to be sports and fashion and all the things.
I think it's going to turn the world into Francophiles, don't you think?
Yeah, for a little bit.
Maybe. I love Paris, and I'm actually jealous that I'm not covering this Olympics. I think I did 8 of them during my tenure, and honestly, I got a little tired of them, but I think this is going to be pretty extraordinary. And obviously Simone Biles. So Celine Dion, the prospect of her singing is giving you joy.
It is. What's giving you joy?
Well, gosh, I have a lot of things that are giving me joy.
Good.
Right now, my vegetable garden is giving me joy because it's starting to be, tomato season. I've got a lot of sun golds, which I love.
Your hydrangeas are banging.
My hydrangeas and my dahlias. I have dahlias the size of my head. So my table out here, it looks so beautiful. It's just bursting with color and flowers and beautiful. I mean, it's just, I feel so lucky. And I don't know whether it's getting older, but I love flowers. They give me so much pleasure and so much joy. And I love just looking at single blossoms, like the beauty and perfection of a single flower.
It's so funny you say that because in the summer, I will only put flowers in vases that are all the same.
Yeah.
I don't want a bouquet. I just want my zinnias. That's it.
I agree. But anyway, so that's giving me joy. And I'm reading a book, speaking of flowers, and I wanted to give this author a shout out. She gave it to me at the Aspen Ideas Festival. We have a mutual friend. She lives in Connecticut. It's called In Lieu of Flowers, A Conversation for the Living. And the author is Nancy Cobb. And it's a beautiful book, really talking about death and dying and loss. And it sounds really depressing, but it's actually really beautiful. And I'm a firm believer that we have to normalize conversations about death and dying and be able, as just humanity in general, to be able to have discussions about those things, because I think they make everyone so uncomfortable.
Right.
And another beautiful book I read, I think about 6 months ago, is called Kayak Morning, and it's by Roger Rosenblatt. And I love Roger Rosenblatt. He's a beautiful writer, but sometimes it's nice to read books that aren't like beach reads or even historical books. I get sent a lot of books, and sometimes it's just nice to read a book that's really poetic and just touches your soul in a way. And those 2 books, I think, have touched me.
That's amazing.
The end.
The end. All right, Katie. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, I'm so sad. This is it. Alyssa, I could talk to you all day about everything.
Thank you, Katie.